Hi, continuing with today's thought. One of the things that is really, well, I shouldn't be surprised, but I actually am, because I like to give our friends on the left a little bit of credit, but the lengths to which they have been going to persuade the American people to unsee what the American people saw on Thursday night at the debate, which is Joe Biden's deteriorating both physical and mental condition. Here he is coming down the steps after the debate. Just watch this.
Former presidents making their way off the CNN debate stage. Looks like Jill Biden, the first lady, has come out. Former President Trump walking off the stage. The first debate of the 2024 campaign and the earliest presidential debate ever, now in the books and in front of the voters. Tonight, along with Aaron Burnett, the first word on what those voters might make of it from our political professionals, from our CNN Flash Poll and Swing State Focus Group. We'll be talking to surrogates, including Vice President Harris, getting fact checks from our Daniel Dale, and new reporting from inside both campaigns. With me here, CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, Kate Bedingfield, David Urban, Van Jones, Alyssa Parr Griffin, and Newsnight anchor Abby Phillip, and David Axelrod, and CNN Chief National Correspondent John King. John, let me start with you. Your thoughts?
I don't know how anybody could say anything except that is a very frail man. You will notice that he is more and more increasingly being helped by his wife and having his wife speak for him while he just kind of stands there staring into space. But that was the physical part. Now the mental part. And the best way to see how he has deteriorated mentally is to compare the Joe Biden of 2019, just 5 years ago, to the Joe Biden of today. So that's what I'm going to do. Just watch.
I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights. And those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
He wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if
you will determine the outcome of this election, vote. Vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Now, people are going to continue to argue, despite what you just saw, about Biden's condition. If the Democrats really are that afraid of Donald Trump or that eager to retain power, my first thought is that they should just be honest and say, okay, the president is not mentally fit and physically fit to perform the duties of the presidency of the United States, but he hasn't been. Somebody else has been, probably all a collective, what I call the Obama collective, the collective of the Obama administration holdovers, and say those are the ones really running the country. And if you vote for Biden, they will continue to run the country. So if you like the way the country has been run, then just vote for Joe Biden and he'll just sit there and these other people will run the country. That would be an honest thing to do. I will not hold my breath waiting for them to do it, but that would be one course they could take. But the other one, the obvious one is, well, this is something you would have to go to court for. We've heard, and it's true, the statement that no, we have a Bill of Rights, we have certain rights, but no right is absolute, and a right can be waived, a right can be overridden if there is a more important issue and that bears on the right. And I would say the one I would talk about now, well, we know the attorney-client privilege. Just will give you a recent example. An attorney the attorney general, the attorney-client privilege is 99.9% of the time sacrosanct. That what a client says to his attorney, planning his case or whatever, the government has no right to compel the attorney to testify as to client-attorney privileges. But there was a court, this involves Donald Trump. Donald Trump, the Mar-a-Lago, the classified documents case, Donald Trump's attorney, I think Walter, I was going to say Walter Nauta, but I don't think that's the attorney's name. I think that's somebody else. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's somebody else. The point is, though, that whoever his attorney is, he was compelled to testify about communications with Donald Trump. Another case I can think of is going way back, John Gotti. John Gotti and his attorney, Bruce Cutler, the court was, or the prosecutor was able to pierce the attorney-client privilege because the government was, the federal government was they had wiretapped, or they had bugs planted in the social club where John Gotti would meet with his friends and plan things. And at one of these meetings, Bruce Cutler was there, the attorney. They were talking, and Bruce Cutler they were talking about a criminal act, something to do, and it was clear that Bruce Cutler was part of it, that he knew what was going on. And so because it was to hide a criminal act, that they were able to pierce the attorney-client privilege. So there's another privilege, though, which is between a patient and the patient's doctor. The government can't just look at my medical records, or the public can't. That would be more applicable. If you're a reporter and you want to know if the president's physician, the White House physician, does not testify, does not give it's traditional for the White House, doctor to examine the president every year and then hold a press conference to answer questions from the press. But if the doctor chooses not to do so, the press cannot, there's no way to compel him to talk. And if he says the president, if he just comes out and makes a statement, I examined the president, he's fine, he's mentally sharp, yada, 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 you can't gainsay what he says. You could disagree with it, but you cannot force the doctor to, if the doctor, he may be lying, you cannot force him to show the medical records and describe his true condition. But as I said, and as I demonstrated with the attorney-client privilege, no right is absolute. And so the doctor-patient privacy right, that's not absolute either. So my suggestion would be, it would have to be tested in court because the president would refuse, but for the House to subpoena the doctor, the White House doctor, saying we have our constitutional oversight responsibility, our power and our duty, and we think that there is something wrong with the president, with his mental functioning and his physical functioning, and we are subpoenaing the doctor to come to the House and testify under oath, maybe bring the records, maybe not, but testify under oath to the president's true condition. Just do that. Now, as I said, the White House would fight that, I'm sure, just as they don't want to release these audio tapes. The House is having to go to court for that, and they're actually talking about arresting Merrick Garland, but which the House has the power to do. If you didn't know, they can send the Sergeant of Arms to arrest somebody who defies a House subpoena, a congressional subpoena. The Senate can do the same thing on their side. So it would go to court, they would fight it, and then it would be up to the court. It would probably go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court would decide. And if they say, no, you cannot make the doctor testify, you do not have that, you cannot have access to the records, then that would be it. On the other hand, they could, as with the Watergate tapes, they could, where Nixon had tapes of his conversations with his subordinates, his associates in the White House. It turns out that they were being recorded. And if you didn't know, if this was before your time, the Nixon administration fought releasing those tapes, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they ruled that he had to turn over the tapes. So the same thing, the Supreme Court could very well rule that the doctor has to testify. But what do you have to lose? And it's obvious what we have to gain, which is settle all these arguments about the president's condition and let us definitively know, and then it will be up to the president, up to the cabinet. There's a 25th Amendment, but they're talking about that. Let me just end on a word about that. The odds of getting the president out under the 25th Amendment, it's very, 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 very unlikely, because number one, if all the president has to, if you initially, this happened with Reagan when he was shot. He was shot, and he said he turned over running of the government to George Shultz. Apparently, the Secretary of State was running the government while Reagan was in the hospital after being shot. But then when he recovered, he said, okay, I'm ready to resume my duties. You just have to say that in writing, and boom, he resumes his duties. What the 25th Amendment is meant for, it's meant for something like, the Kennedy assassination. But suppose it hadn't been an assassination. In other words, what if it were an attempted assassination, that the president was shot, but he was not killed? So he was killed, and Vice President Johnson took over. But suppose he wasn't killed, and that he was in a coma. Assume he was in a coma and unable to respond, unable to say that, unable to turn over the duties to the vice president or whoever while he's in while he's in a coma. He couldn't do that. So that's what that's meant for. Then you would have the cabinet and the vice president would have to make a ruling, and then they would go. And then that would be it. I think it would, I'm not going to dig out the amendment right now. I don't know what it means if the president were cognizant, was able to speak and spoke, but were able to speak. But in the case of Joe Biden, if the cabinet votes and the vice president agrees that Biden has to leave office, Biden can challenge that. He can still challenge that. And I believe the time period is 21 days. What happens then is that it goes to Congress, and Congress has, I believe, 21 days. There's a certain period that you can't just leave it in limbo. But just as with impeachment or certain constitutional amendments, you would need 2/3 votes of the House, 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate would have to vote to finally evict the president from the White House, from his office. So if it ultimately comes to that, what are the odds? With the election only a couple of months, by then, a month away. So forget the 25th Amendment. But don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you have an inclination. If you're thinking about it, don't think about it. You have to, if you want to be president, you have to be able to think on your feet and react quickly. So you should make a snap decision to subscribe to this channel. But also share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.